Welcome to OnFinality's customer interview series, where we learn more from leaders in the blockchain space and how OnFinality's infrastructure helps them build the decentralized future faster. My name is Rob. I'm head of growth at OnFinality, and today it's our distinct pleasure to have Hoon, a bit of a legend actually, in Polkadot. He's the CTO of the Astar network, joining us for a bit of a chat, learn more about how what they're doing and how OnFinality helped them. Nice to meet you, Hoon. How's it going?
Hey, thank you for having me here. I'm doing well.
Yeah, no worries. Can you tell us more about, for the people who aren't familiar, Astar and what it does?
Yep. So Astar Network is a layer one smart contract platform, and we provide the infrastructure for dApp developers to create a decentralized future, just like everyone else here. And we aim to become the innovation layer of Polkadot. So what does innovation layer mean? Well, we provide the best smart contract infrastructure for not just EVM, but WebAssembly smart contracts, also interoperability between contracts with other chains, but also other environments within the same network. So in our network, EVM and WASM are completely compatible with each other. And finally, we have dApp staking where users can stake on a smart contract that they like to support the developers and encourage developers to create something that users care and want to support rather than just creating a product that's all about hype or token sales.
Yeah, amazing. I think there's a huge amount of material there in what you've just said, and yeah, I think you guys are one of the most innovative projects out there. In terms of like stepping all the way back there, in terms of like you want to be this sort of innovation hub, maybe just to break it down simply, would it be fair to say that because of this kind of playground, if you will, that where you enable people to build, with within the EVM, the Ethereum virtual machine and the WASM, WebAssembly smart contracts, that you would almost hope to be the real, like the first port of call for anyone building like an innovative dApp in Web3. Is that how you would think of yourselves?
Yes, definitely. And we would call ourselves, well, we're aiming to become the gateway and the portal to Web3 for any industry because Web Solidity and EVM it's something that's already well established and everyone's so used to. There's a lot of materials out there, easy to learn the language and build something simple. But when it comes to industry level complex use cases and cases that requires more type safety, you kind of have to use Rust or other languages, and this is where WebAssembly comes in. And through interoperability, yes, like no dApps are really isolated from each other in our network. So our network would be a perfect starting point for people who want to branch out into other industry use cases using a traditional DeFi project that's written in Solidity, or vice versa, where traditional or well, it's not traditional, but more like industry level use cases that leverages the blockchain could deploy on Astar network and interact with any other applications that's out there. And we're trying to expand our reach into other blockchains using various methods. We're looking into Cosmos, but also, of course, XCMP that Polkadot provides. And yes, and most importantly, it's also great for a small indie developers as well, small creators who don't have the backing, the financial backing that they have, like most companies, but through community support and by using our dApp staking, they can still generate passive income through the project that they created, which the community members want to support.
Yeah, awesome. And for people who aren't as familiar with a lot of the terminology there, it's really, I think, one of the most exciting things really about what you guys are doing. You kind of have this sort of like easy on ramp, I guess, for traditional developers to come in because of the nature of what you're doing with WASM, right?
Yes, yes. So WebAssembly itself is, for people who don't know, WebAssembly itself is just a simple message instruction, or I guess it's more of a virtual machine instruction for bytecode for the browser. It was meant to be something that's more performant and portable than the JavaScript virtual machine that a lot of browsers use by default, where WebAssembly virtual machines can interact directly at the hardware level, at the native hardware level through code that targets WebAssembly as its compiling target, and these language includes C++, Rust, Go, any other system level languages. And what's really interesting here is these languages are very mainstream. Everyone uses this for any cases that we already have, and they have a very well established library. WebAssembly itself has a lot of support from big industry players like Apple, Google, Microsoft. And for a blockchain, EVM is also just a stack-based virtual machine, and just like WebAssembly, the only difference is the instruction sets. Like, is it more standardized or is it really custom made? And for EVM, it's very custom made. It's kind of a proof of concept really for a smart contract as well, smart contract execution environments. Hence why it's there are a lot of problems that could be fixed, like for example handling asynchronicity or language composability, and that's where WASM is so powerful because it's not although it was meant for a browser for the browser environment, it's not limited to the browser, and you can definitely translate this into a blockchain, allowing blockchains to run smart contracts that is written in any language that targets WebAssembly binary.
Awesome. And how do you, with that in mind, with this sort of opportunity that you have created, I guess, to like open the floodgates for all these people to kind of build within Astar and then get exposed to all the other sort of innovative things you have. Like what are you doing to bring on these Web2 developers, or are people just naturally coming to you, or are you guys kind of like doing like an outreach to bring these people into your ecosystem versus starting somewhere else? How does that work?
So of course we would love to have those traditional companies come to us without us doing anything, but that's not going to happen in this day and age where we have a bunch of blockchains, right? So we have to do a lot of outreach, and yes, so we handle outreaching in both internal, like so preparing the internal side for the external developers who just jump right in, and we also do a lot of outreaching activities and talking to other companies to encourage them to build on Astar network. And so for the internal side, we prepare all the toolings and infrastructure. So for example, we have Swanky tools or Swanky suites, which is a set of all-in-one tool for building WebAssembly smart contracts. So you don't need to know how cargo contracts work. And if you want to build an assembly script, there's the Ask EDSL, which is which is made with the assembly script, which is a sub language of TypeScript, which allows TypeScript-like syntax to compile down into WebAssembly. So it's much easier for developers who are used to TypeScript, which is like a huge portion of developers. And for them, they can just jump right into building their own simple smart contracts through the Swanky suite, and with comprehensive documentation, which is we're working on right now as well. They can learn more and create something that's a little bit more advanced, all through Swanky. And another internal side is, of course, the infrastructure, so providing the infrastructure for developers to build their own stuff. And this infrastructure also includes providing nodes, responding nodes, like services that OnFinality provides as well. So OnFinality is, I believe, one of the go-to choice for a lot of our ecosystem projects, and we definitely push this, and we encourage them to use OnFinality as like their endpoint for their projects. And for an external reach, we are planning a lot of hackathons. The initial phase was attending a lot of conferences, and that's how we did spread our name out there. But if we want practical developers coming in, we have to talk with corporations. We have to talk with students, to organize hackathons or to onboard corporations for their solutions. And recently, we've had a deal with Docomo, which is one of the biggest telecom
I saw that. Yeah.
providers in Japan, and because we have a huge presence there. They were putting billions in there to start this Web3 initiative for researching how to use Web3 use cases for traditional existing use cases and infrastructure on Web3 solutions. To expand their reach and provide a better quality service. Uh, and of course, we're also talking with various big players like um, well, Japan is also known for their art, their media, right? So we are talking with a lot of companies and individuals who are well known for their artwork, who are interested in building an NFT, making an NFT out of their work or their IP. We're also talking with big corporations like Toyota as well, and Sony, all these companies. So
Wow.
that's our activity for now.
Wow. Yeah, amazing. There's again like so many rich things you guys are doing. It's hard to keep up. And one of the things you mentioned earlier, and one of the things that's like super interesting for people is this concept where everybody or a lot of projects, including us, actually have this kind of the saying of like for builders, by builders, that type of ethos. But I think you guys perhaps more than anybody really like embody that completely, right? With this like the build to earn and staking to earn concepts. Can you explain more about that? Because it's just incredible what you're doing there.
Yeah, so I guess first, our ethos. The way how our company started was, if you really break it down, you can say we were just a bunch of Gavin fanboys coming together, seeing the Web3 future. Like, oh my God, interoperable web! I want to build so many things, but where should we start? And Substrate was the answer for us. And we wanted to, yes, I can say we want to create something like what Substrate did for blockchain developers, but for people who are creating dApps. And one thing we really realized is right now the Web3 industry relies a lot on hype, TVL, monetary incentives, and if once the market goes down, which I guess you can say we're kind of in that situation, everything falls down, right? When your fundamentals are always about money, and I feel like that's just such a shame because this technology can do way more than be a monetary system. It could be something. Web3 is all about creating this ecosystem where there is a service, but without a service provider, explicit service providers. And you're able to create your own digital nation. That's where I see the power in it. And builders are the ones who really bring this happen. They're the one who makes this happen. And and that's why we feel like we felt the need to incentivize those builders. And right now, traditionally, builders had to rely on investment from bigger firms, or they had to hype up their token so the token price goes up, and then hopefully they're able to make some profit of it. But in the end, it ends up being a pump and dump esque like scheme. Even if it's not really a scam, like it sort of turns out to become evolves into a scam because that's the only way you can really make money in a lot of ways. So how can we solve this? And that's where dApp staking come in. We want to become a platform where dApp staking isn't really meant to make developers rich or anything. We just want to make sure that the incentivization goes to the places that actually creates the ecosystem and that enriches the user experience. And that fastens the adoption of Web3, and we believe those are the dApps for users. They are just staking their tokens, and this model is similar to something like Patreon, where where users can regularly pay their favorite creators, so the creators can continue their work. But in our case, it's the barrier of entry is way lower than Patreon. Since Patreon, you actually have to pay money, but in our case, you stake those tokens, and through network inflation and how generally where the staking rewards are generated from, instead of distributing that to those to validators, where we're a parachain, so we don't have validators. Therefore, we can redistribute those rewards to the dApps, and that's the gist of dApp staking.
Yeah, really, really neat. And I guess just to make it simple for some people, if you have Astar tokens, you can basically nominate those towards projects that you think are doing cool stuff, and the builders will get income from that, which is really neat. So you can support like directly the people who are building stuff, and the Astar network is really facilitating that kind of community and things around it, which is cool. And I don't know if you've seen, there's a sort of reminds me a little bit of there's a show at the moment on Netflix about how Spotify came about, and there's that change in the music industry, where, and I'm not comparing you guys to Spotify, because of course there's many differences, but that relationship between trying to get the value to the artist, and kind of promoting the artist, and kind of getting rid of some of the middlemen, eventually from the music labels and so on. So it's really cool. And I think with that, if you kind of look at that model, then you guys are quite an interesting piece of the puzzle, where you can see inside, like what are the exciting niches perhaps, or things that are being built, or what are things that are resonating within your community. What are people putting their tokens to work on? Can you share more about that?
Yeah, so right now, as everyone would know, like Web3 is still very niche. So like, niche within Web3 is like finding a niche within a niche, which is like what, 5 people or something, just like vastly supporting that project. Um, but yeah, when it comes to projects that a lot of people are supporting, I think we have a lot of gaming projects are coming in. We have Cosmized, one of the the first, or actually, yeah, it's the first Metaverse project on Astar, and I think the community was way bigger than I expected. I was never really a huge fan of Metaverse that much because of the value proposition. They were always about like land sales and money, and
Yeah.
that sort of rubbed me the wrong way. But with Cosmice, they were really community focused and community driven. It was made by the community, and they just wanted to have this place where all the Astar ecosystem can come together. And it's yes, that was pretty amazing. We also have a lot of NFT projects and DAOs, that works around the NFT project. Those projects, the NFT projects, NFT artwork, but also community NFTs that represents you as a membership within a DAO, and Metaverse projects. I think those are getting the most support and community engagement.
Okay, cool. I've heard you in another presentation talk about how there's like people are like not incentivized to innovate, and you kind of touched on it before around that people, some teams can just fork an existing project, raise a bunch of money, change a logo, I think, and then they're kind of like done, right? With the macro environment now, and especially like what's been happening in the last few weeks in crypto, do you think that there's going to be? Do you think this will change anything? Like, because it's been so easy to kind of do that, do you think that's going to continue more because things are tough, or do you think that there really is going to be a change now from like everybody in the ecosystem, that you can't just get away with some of this stuff now? There's going to be a higher level of scrutiny, I guess, from whether it's the communities or investors and so on, and there really is going to be that innovation that Astar is driving for?
Yeah, I think that's a very great question. Man, my concern was always that people, because there's so much money involved in this industry, and everyone's getting an investment for the most stupidest thing. It's so easy to just copy other projects. And now with the market downturn, I I think it's definitely going to be harder to get noticed with your projects. Like if you make, for example, you make a new NFT project, like unless you really have some sort of utility or name value or some sort of unique value proposition that would get people's interest, it's going to be near impossible to get any funds that you were able to receive, like a year ago, for example. But will this trend continue? Will the trend change like completely, or I would say it's more at this stage. It's still a temporary thing for two major reasons. One is that the barrier of copying something and just flipping a project um, is very low, so anyone can do it. Now we have more Solidity examples. Solidity use cases that are so big. So if the market goes up and people are looking into new projects coming in, definitely there's going to be people who are just going to flip existing projects. With Rust, it's kind of solved because you can't really clone existing Solidity projects and expect it to work the same. You really have to put your mind into it, and when you put your mind into it, you see some flaws in it, you see ways to improve on it. So naturally, it becomes into its own thing, which is why we're really pushing Rust and other languages to create smart contracts instead of reusing the same one. But second point, why I feel like it's still a temporary thing. We might see it. We might see other projects copying each other in the future. Is because it's we don't have enough, I guess, attention from or positive attention from the mainstream media uh, in terms of business opportunities, and also in terms of education. So educating people to understand the real value of blockchains and Web3, the real purpose, is very hard compared to being seen as a money making machine. We know that it's crashed now, but there's also a lot of sentiment where people know that there was a couple of times where the numbers went really high, and the lower it gets, a lot of people are now thinking like, okay, so it's like my time to go like a thousand x, a million x, or whatever, and these people sort of, I would say, makes it difficult for people to focus on building something that really matters, not because of its monetary incentives, but because of its utility. So we still need more people to come in, but I am still hopeful that as more big corporations or small creators comes into this industry, this ecosystem, and sees its true value and creates something that the average users might see value in, then we can see some real change, meaningful changes.
Yeah, agree. If you, bit of a random question, but if you weren't doing what you're doing now and kind of thinking about, like you mentioned that there's some things missing, and now you've got this platform to build like really innovative stuff. What do you think is missing, or what opportunity do you think is really exciting for that next phase, or what are people not doing that maybe is something that's like an opportunity out there to be grabbed?
Yeah. So for me, in a technical term, I guess one of the biggest missing features, missing piece that Astar Network is researching really hard to work on is native asynchronicity in smart contracts. So every execution in a smart contract is synchronous, right at the moment. And there are asynchronous languages like Gear, or asynchronous environments like Gear or Cosmized. I believe they also have asynchronicity, and but they only work within the same network. But what if we can translate asynchronicity for or represent asynchronicity for cross-chain functions, where you're requesting another blockchain to execute this feature, and then the smart contract is waiting until they get a response from that other blockchain. If we can have that at a syntax level for smart contracts, I know Rust and all the languages already do support that in terms of their language specifications, but it's still not supported in a smart contract context. And once we can allow that, I feel like the use cases would be exponentially bigger, because most of the cross-chain functions that we see right now on blockchains are just asset transfers, and because it's only asset-based, asset-focused, people are making apps or dApps in terms of assets, and this is limiting their creativity, in my opinion. So that's one of the biggest missing features. Another missing feature would be, I guess it's also a matter of like having blockchains that are really focused. If from my understanding, based on my observations, the current blockchain the landscape, they're all they're all boasting about how fast, how stable, and how cheap their network is. Right? And to me, I see blockchain as like a digital nation where you have merchants that are smart contracts, and merchants can definitely communicate with each other within the same jurisdiction. Cross chain would be like, conducting international trading, and in the future, I believe that the competitive advantage of blockchains are going to be slightly meaningless, and instead we're going to focus on comparative advantage, where conducting having a certain merchant within a certain business case in a certain blockchain makes more sense than the other way around. a game focused blockchain, or industry like car manufacturing focused blockchain, whatever. That's a future that I feel like would make blockchain exponentially better and more appealing for so many people. That's missing right now. And most importantly, I guess you can say, like, to me, blockchain that's boasting about how cheap their gas cost is like saying a country saying like, oh, our country is the best because we have the lowest tax. Like, it's I guess, yeah, I see why some people want to go in there for sure, but that's not what defines a country. A country is defined by their cultures, what they produce, and what kind of community people they have. And this is what I would like blockchains to see in order for us to really move forward to the next step.
Yeah, I agree. I think in this current, well, the cycle, it's just kind of happened or happening. I think the sort of the tribalism
Yeah.
between, or that's happened around certain blockchains has really been a real blow in lots of ways. I think to some of retail investors, I think that sort of tribalism has hurt a lot of people in different ways, and also projects and general advancement, right? Because there's a lot of people being stuck, like in these sort of kingdoms and things, and not really thinking about ultimately, does it really matter, right? And that kind of thing, like what you're talking about, a lot of these things are almost hygiene factors, and it's not really the way this goes forward. Of course, they're all important. You have to have those things in order to advance, but it's not really ultimately, how this is going to proceed. Yeah, interesting. So can you talk a little bit about how you came across OnFinality and how the services benefited Astar and the Scheiden network?
Yeah. So OneFinality was one of our first earliest infrastructure provider, and at the time, I believe OnFinality was providing services for most of the major parachains. Well, I mean, now they do it for all, but back in they do, like, they were approaching all the major parachains. That got a slot in the first auction, and yeah, we were one of the first batch alongside Moonbeam and Akala. That's where I believe our relationship really, like, officially started, from my understanding. Although I do know that we were talking before as well. And in terms of, like, how it benefits, like, as I mentioned before, it's the providing infrastructure and an endpoint for the ecosystem developers. It's very important, especially for us, where we are just we're just the network, and the dApps are the one who's really using the network, and we can't provide all the endpoints by ourselves. So having OnFinality was amazing, especially when during the early phases of Polkadot, there were a lot of runtime upgrades and a lot of changes to the RPC, and every time that happens, the nodes, the endpoint has to perform like a cleanup, a upgrade from a clean state, basically, so, like, from scratch, in order to have those new RPCs. And Finality was very responsive for that. Yeah, so that's why it's saved us a lot. Whenever something happens, like, Finality was the way to go. It was like the default URL endpoint for a while. Yeah, that's like, I think, the biggest help that Finality gave us.
Yeah, appreciate the support. Just a couple of final questions. And you did a bit of research, and, like, clearly you're a very talented guy. You're CTO of Astar. You're CEO of an indie gaming company.
Yeah.
You've won all sorts of awards in different fields. I even watched something where you said, even though you've kind of in this sort of technical role, that you see yourself having more expertise in, like, marketing and business, which is amazing. So clearly, you're the type of guy that I think, anything you sort of set your mind to, you'd make a success. So what led you to crypto, and what keeps you here?
Yeah. Well, how I started crypto, it's a pretty funny story, because crypto sort of found me and sort of, like, pushed me, pulled me here to the industry, instead of me really, like, going in there. I mean, compared to, like, most people's story. So how I first, like, how was I first exposed to crypto? It was like when I was very young. I used to do, like, I used to do a lot of just like security audits for people, like for a commission, and a lot of just odd jobs, gigs on the internet. And I had a client who was willing to pay in Bitcoin. I had no idea what Bitcoin was. I took the task as more of a challenge than for actual like, money. And Bitcoin at the time was like nothing. So I looked into Bitcoin, and the technology was quite interesting. But I still couldn't really see like something Bitcoin. Bitcoin itself as something that I'll be working on. Though I did look into like mining pools and sometimes participated in it when you can still mine it with your CPU. Good old days. And now like fast forward a couple of years, I was in my undergrad, senior years of my undergrad. I had to write a thesis, and at the time I was actually mastering. I was majoring in management, business administration. So it's like nothing with tech. Just because I love management. I love the concept. Steve Jobs was like my hero, so I wanted to be like him. So yeah, and I for my thesis I had to write something. I want to write something about tech because I was interested in tech, but it has to be related to management. And at the time I was really interested in the stock market and asset management. So it was like, how can I write a thesis about stock asset management without me doing the field work, where I don't have to like just ask surveys or actually go to the stock market and stock exchanges and like survey them. So the answer was make my own system where I can conduct these
Well,
trades. So I thought, okay, so the blockchain was like the only solution I could think of. I looked into every other ways, like make my own simulation or whatever, but I didn't want to take too much time. So blockchain was the natural answer. At first, I was planning on making a Solidity contract, but the gas cost, unpredictable gas cost, was like a huge problem with my research, because I can justify why a corporation would go into blockchain if the gas cost is too high and unpredictable. Like, because it's a huge risk for them, especially like risk of service downtime. Although Ethereum doesn't have a downtime per se, but the gas, because of the changing gas cost, like there could be interruptions with the client. So I had to find a different way, which is to make my own blockchain. And I didn't want to make my own blockchain from scratch because that would be crazy. So I looked, and like out of just pure coincidence, I had this. So someone from so a former student of my seminar was actually like working with Parity at the time, and he was talking about Polkadot and Substrate. It's like 2019, I think, like yeah, early to mid 2019. It's like, yeah, Polkadot's the next big thing. You gotta get in. It's like shilling crypto to me. I had no idea about like investing in crypto. Just the technology sounded interesting. I was like, okay, so blockchain, but the interoperable. That's awesome. So now I was like, maybe what if I change my research so that every company has their own blockchain, and let the blockchain interoperate with each other and represent, I guess, like stocks as the native cryptocurrency of the blockchain. Although like using stocks wasn't really like accurate, but still a way to represent assets of a company. So I created my own blockchain, made my own palette, and tested it out. And I wrote a thesis about that. Somehow that thesis got known to Sota, who was living in Tokyo, and he called me. Was like. Or messaged me more like, it was like, hey, I saw your research and I saw your project. It looks like you're working in Substrate. We're also working in Substrate. Do you want to like get a job? I was like, oh, what is this guy? And I didn't know what was going on, but I thought he wanted to talk about blockchain with me. So I accepted, and we talked, and all of a sudden I was part of the team.
wow.
Yeah.
What a journey. Awesome. And how would you, like, for people who maybe don't have that sort of background, or how would you advise them to get into Web3 right now?
I think right now it's a really good way to get in. No noise, just pure focus on building. How to start? So first first thing, and the most important thing for any project, is understand what you want to achieve. As in, like, what do you want to get out of either this technology or just your dream project. Just think about the project that you want to create or you want to work with, and see what's the best solution, because right now it's so easy to create your own blockchain with thanks to Substrate, and the parachain slots are also quite affordable. So the difficulty of onboarding is not that high. The only thing that's difficult is thinking about token economics and securing a diverse set of collators so that your network is alive. But it's relatively easy compared to the old days. So technology is there. Smart contract is also much more accessible with Solidity, but also Rust. You can build smart contract with Rust or C++, any language that can compile down into WebAssembly, as long as the compiler does target the proper interface. And this means that your knowledge, if you already have knowledge in those languages, it's perfect. What I want to say is now technology is not the issue. At this age, technology is not the issue. The only issue is your imagination and your want to create something. So understand, what do you want to get out of the future? If you were able to put this one block in the future and put yourself in there, what would it be? Understand that and see if that could be achievable through Web3, because Web3 is an evolving space. And once you have a dream, your vision, write that down, show it to the community. The community loves it. Then there you go. You got yourself a project. Anyone from the community can join in to your project, and you got yourself a team.
Yeah, things have definitely changed. Well, thanks, Hoon. Real pleasure to talk to you today. Learn a little bit about Astar. You guys have really inspirational thing. If people want to learn more, they can check out your website. If you want to learn more and build within Astar, you're welcome to check out our website and app.onfinality.io. You can sign up there for free and get up to 500,000 daily API requests and take your dApp to the next level with all sorts of interesting monitoring and tools you have to understand the behavior of your users. Super easy. Check out our website. And thanks again, Hoon. Great to chat, and all the best.
Likewise, Rob. Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.